Micky, explain to us where we are. What's going on?
We're in the madness of Sport Beach in Cannes. Complete chaos.
Oh, unbelievable. I'm with Micky, the CMO of TIAA. It's so great to see you.
Good to see you.
I'm so excited. I hope you're enjoying the week.
I am, if it wasn't quite so blimmin' hot.
There's just a little bit of that.
You can see the beads of my sweat on my forehead. I apologize.
Gosh. No, absolutely. Can I kick it off and ask you a couple questions? So I didn't know about TIAA that it started as a firm that was basically taking care of teachers.
That is right. 105 years ago now, Andrew Carnegie founded it because he saw all these people who were pouring into their communities from an education perspective. And then when they came to retire, they couldn't afford to retire. So he felt that that was a great inequity, and he really wanted to solve that problem of letting people who were pouring into their communities through education be able to retire with dignity.
Amazing. And that is now sort of extended itself into healthcare and other professionals.
So the core business essentially helps anybody in the not-for-profit space retire with dignity is how we describe it. Yeah. So that is anyone that could be working in education, not just higher education now, also K through 12, in the healthcare space, government sector, the arts, and so on and so forth. So that's the predominant part of our business. We're now extending it actually beyond that into more of the corporate sector and really supporting people there in their retirement as well.
But it seems like the through line is about supporting people, right?
Yes.
People that have
totally
given to themselves, and you're trying to make sure you secure their future.
Yes, that's exactly right. And it's like you just quoted our tagline then, which we talk about ensuring people's future.
We'll talk about ensuring people's futures in today's times. It's obviously an incredibly challenging time right now, a lot of uncertainty. I mean, how does your company, your mission, your brand fit in that context?
So actually in the US, we're a US predominantly business in our core retirement business. 40% of people will not have enough money to retire or to last through their retirement. So we think that is a crisis. And actually it's worse when you look at certain populations. Women retire with 30% less than men. Black Americans retire with about 80 cents on the dollar of an American who can afford to retire, and so on and so forth. So we see great inequities actually in retirement across the country, and that is, what we are here to try and resolve or find solutions for.
I'm curious about your sort of take on some of the data we're seeing with our retirement data as well. But one of the things that we saw was that 3/4 of Americans have a plan for retirement, but about only a quarter of them are sort of understand where they're at with their financial goals.
Yeah, it's so true. We talk about something called longevity literacy, and we talk a lot about literacy around retirement too. So longevity literacy is the fact that the majority of people in the US can't even figure out how long they're going to live. And if you can't figure out how long you're going to live, how do you even get started on thinking about having enough money to last you through retirement? And then you compound it with the fact that people either don't understand or frankly bury their heads in the sand around where their financial standings are with regards to retirement, and you have a major issue.
So how do you as a marketer, because you've been both a CEO and a CMO, and I've got a question on that a little bit later, but talk to me about that in the context of how you take a brand positioning and align that with a mission, especially the mission of a company that has such legacy.
I mean, when it comes to TIAA, it's somewhat of a gift, because when I think about the TIAA brand and the fact that it has this very purpose-driven mission in its sort of very bones, and you couple that with actually the business model and the charter we have at our business, which is the fact that we return profits back to our participants, you have somewhat of a gift as a marketer, because you have this rich DNA and rich heritage and purpose that is still true today. Combine that with the way we actually act in turning our profits back to participants, and it becomes a really compelling story for all of the audiences we serve, whether that is the CHROs of organizations, who are the people making decisions about a retirement plan for their organization, or a decision for an individual in terms of what they should do with their retirement and why they should choose TIAA. And you have a really fairly straightforward story in a very complicated market.
That's really interesting. And then I would assume that the focus on culture, which I know you as a leader, I followed your career, you've always gone into opportunities focusing on the culture. So how does that play itself out with that sort of flywheel you just described?
Yeah, totally. So what's interesting is when you talk to people about why they joined TIAA, most of them talk about the purpose, that they're really inspired to work for a financial organization that is doing good, which is not necessarily that easy to find, particularly in the financial services space. So I'd say it's a reason that people are attracted to the organization. And then I think it's actually also part of what makes our employees such great brand ambassadors for our organization, whether they're on the front lines with clients or whether they're working in our, marketing and communications organization. People are very committed to that purpose and telling that story and to living that purpose on the inside. And you've probably heard me say before, I believe that live it on the inside, it shows on the outside. And I think that is very, very true of our organization because of people's passion and commitment to the purpose.
That's so interesting. I mean, you're one of my favorite Athena leaders. I wrote a book on leadership and
one of my
values.
favorite books.
Oh, well, thank you so much. But I think that's really emblematic of the work that you're doing, is this ability to sort of focus on nurturing, on empathy, collaboration, sort of. I love that thought of the inside out, a little bit like a complexion, right?
It is just like that. And, I also say that, particularly in this day and age, the walls are thin. And so what do I mean by that? I mean, any conversation that happens internally has every opportunity of going external, whether that's because someone shares a memo, and we've all seen those stories, or whether people just write about their experience on something like Glassdoor or LinkedIn, or because people are posting things more proactively on a channel like LinkedIn or Instagram. So I think it's really important in this moment, particularly, that your employees are as engaged and as big of believers in the mission as maybe the senior leadership is, because that is what's going to turn them into ambassadors and make it seep out of the organization.
Amazing. So last of two questions. One is on marketers. So we're here, obviously, in this sweltering heat of Cannes, having
with 7 million marketers.
They're all here, right? I'm not sure who's minding the store everywhere else. But as a CEO,
yes,
having a different role than the role you have now, give advice to CMOs and to marketers. Like, how do you work with your CEO? How do you think about a business and the brand in the context of it?
So I've always said that brand is business and business is brand. And so what do I mean by that? When you think about driving a brand, you've really got to do it through the lens of what is the business growth that you are looking for? Who is the audience you're looking to seek? What is the new line of business you're seeking to serve? So I've always encouraged marketers to really be a student of the business and understand the business before they actually understand anything else. What is the business model? What are the business priorities? What are the levers for growth for the business? So that's my sort of first piece of advice. My second piece of advice is always, don't lead the story when you're telling the story of marketing. Don't lead with the marketing piece of it. Lead with the business piece of it. What is the business problem that you're trying to solve? And then here is my solution, which may come through a marketing lens, but start really very much with the business problem that you are there to solve.
Amazing. Last question.
Go for it.
What's ahead for TIAA? Where are you
That's
going
a
next?
big question for a last
right,
question, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, I alluded to this right at the beginning. We are starting to push into the corporate 401k space with our core product. We have a really differentiated core product that I mentioned earlier that returns its values back to its participants, and it has this cool feature called loyalty bonus, which means the longer that you're in it, the more you will get at retirement when you choose to annuitize it. So we're really taking that product and starting to offer it to people outside of the not-for-profit space. And why? Because we think it's a great product, but we also know that crisis that I talked about doesn't exist just within the not-for-profit sector. It exists broadly within the US, with that 40% of Americans that won't have enough to retire that I mentioned earlier. So that's the big thing on the horizon.
You're so fun and interesting to talk to. I wish we had more time because we could go a whole hour on this.
We could go a whole hour. We may pass out from heat stroke in this glass box.
I think so. This has been Stagwell Sport Beach in conversation with Micky. I can't thank you enough for being here.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Take care.